The holographic declaration flickered across every major hub in the Terran coalition, its message pompous and dripping with imperial arrogance. Ambassador Elsa Chen stood in the command center of Titan Station, arms crossed, watching the Zorathian Emperor's three heads speak in perfect unison. The human species has been found guilty of unauthorized expansion, disrespect toward ancient territorial claims, and general insolence toward the Galactic Empire. We hereby declare total war upon your pathetic civilization. Surrender within 10 solar cycles or face annihilation. The transmission ended. Silence hung in the air for exactly 2 seconds before someone in the back of the command center laughed. Did he just give us 10 days? Lieutenant Nick Reeves asked, leaning back in his chair with an expression of genuine confusion. 10 whole days? Elsa turned to face her tactical officer, one eyebrow raised. Apparently they think that's intimidating. Ma'am, with all due respect, we've built 17 new colonies in the time it probably took them to write that speech, Nick said, pulling up the latest colonial reports on his datapad. Hell, the mining operation on Kepler 442b just broke ground on their third city yesterday. She walked over to the strategic display, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The Zorathian Empire lit up in angry red, a massive sprawl covering nearly 40 systems. Impressive if you didn't know the context. Next to it, humanity's territories glowed blue, compact but dense with activity. Pull up their military movements, Elsa ordered. Nick complied, and the display shifted. The Zorathian fleet positions appeared. Hundreds of warships arranged in traditional battle formations, slowly crawling toward human space at sublight speeds. They're still using sublight for tactical positioning, Nick observed, his voice flat with disbelief. Ma'am, they won't reach our outer colonies for 6 months at that speed. Do they not have FTL combat doctrine? Elsa asked. Apparently not. According to the intelligence brief, they consider it dishonorable to engage without proper formation visibility. Nick shook his head. Their entire military philosophy is based on wars that lasted generations. They genuinely think 10 days is a rush job. Elsa pulled up humanity's defensive grid. Unlike the Zorathians' lumbering armada, human vessels were already in position, scattered across space in a web of overlapping fields of fire. Not because they'd prepared for this specific threat, but because humanity had learned long ago that the universe didn't care about honor or fair warning. Earth had taught them that lesson centuries ago, when climate collapse nearly ended their species. When the ice caps melted and the crops failed, humanity didn't have time for grand declarations or ceremonial responses. They adapted or died. They built vertical farms in the span of months, not years. They engineered algae that ate carbon dioxide and atmospheric processors that worked around the clock. Sir, we're receiving calls from the colonial governors, reported a communications officer. New Perth wants to know if they should interrupt the harvest season for military preparations. Elsa almost smiled. Tell them to continue as planned. If the Zorathians actually make it to New Perth, the harvest will be the least of their concerns. Nick pulled up another screen, this one showing economic data. The markets barely hiccuped. There was a 2% dip in interstellar shipping stocks, but it recovered within the hour. Apparently, investors are betting this will be over before it impacts quarterly earnings. They're probably right, Elsa muttered. The truth was, humanity had been preparing for existential threats since before they left Earth. Every colony ship was built with redundant systems because they expected failures. Every station had life support that could run for years in isolation, because they planned for disasters. When a solar flare wiped out Proxima Station's power grid, the backup systems engaged before the primary systems finished shutting down. The Zorathians thought in terms of honor and tradition. Humans thought in terms of Murphy's Law. What's the status of our response fleet? Elsa asked. The third expeditionary is already en route to intercept, Nick reported. ETA to enemy fleet position is 72 hours. Admiral Kowalski says she'll have them turned around and running home before the week is out. Just the third? That's barely a dozen ships. Admiral said, and I quote, "I'm not pulling resources from genuine emergencies for this circus." Nick tried to suppress a grin. She also mentioned that the Fourth Fleet is dealing with that rogue asteroid cluster near Epsilon Eridani, and that actually requires her attention. Elsa nodded. Priorities. That was the human way. An empire declares war. and humanity checks its calendar to see if it can fit in a response between mining operations and terraforming schedules. A new message appeared on Elsa's personal comm. It was from the Terran Council. Draft a response to the Zorathian Declaration. Keep it polite but firm. Let them know we're declining their kind offer of war. Nick looked over her shoulder. Declining? You can decline a war? Apparently we're going to try, Elsa said, sitting down at her terminal. She began typing, her fingers moving with practiced efficiency. The response was simple. The Terran Coalition acknowledges the Zorathian Empire's declaration. However, we must respectfully decline to participate in this conflict. We recommend diplomatic channels to resolve any territorial disputes. We are currently occupied with several infrastructure projects and cannot divert resources to military engagement at this time. Please schedule any future declarations with at least 6 months' notice. Nick read over her shoulder and burst out laughing. You're giving them a customer service response. It's accurate, Elsa said with a shrug. She hit send. 3 days later, the Zorathian fleet encountered the Third Expeditionary. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 14 minutes. Human ships, built for speed and equipped with weapons designed to crack asteroids for mining, tore through the Imperial formation with casual efficiency. The Zorathians retreated, confused and shaken. Their honor-bound tactics meant nothing against an enemy that treated war like a maintenance problem to be solved quickly and efficiently. Emperor Zorath himself appeared in a follow-up transmission, his 3 heads looking significantly less confident. We may have been hasty. Perhaps negotiations would be more appropriate. Elsa accepted the call with a tired smile. We appreciate your flexibility, Your Majesty. Shall we schedule a diplomatic summit? I have an opening 3 weeks from Thursday. Humanity returned to its regularly scheduled programming. The harvest on New Perth came in ahead of schedule, and the mining operation on Kepler 442b began construction on a 4th city. The galaxy learned an important lesson that day. You don't declare war on a species that treats extinction-level events as planning exercises. You schedule an appointment,